Hi, I'm Anne Wilson, the Welsh Chef, and it is so wonderful to be here with two amazing women who are we're going to be talking money, wealth, debt, the eek moments of when you start creating your financial freedom and what it looks like at different stages. So, Martha and Sam, a huge hello, a big juicy welcome, and thank you for coming here to have money talks, because in many areas we don't talk cleanly about money. So thank you.
No, thank you very much, Anne. Really lovely to be here.
So I'm going to ask both of you to just give a little introduction of who you are, a little bit where you're from, and a little bit, fur kids, non-fur kids, partner, no partner, where do you live? What is the stuff that juices you and keeps you in mischief these days? Sam, let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm British. I live in the United Kingdom, and I have been with my partner for about 15 years now, and we have 2 dogs and 3 cats.
Fur family.
Absolutely. And they keep me very busy. And I set my own business up about 10 years ago. So I'm in e-commerce. So I did about 17 years in the corporate world and then had enough of that. And moved into e-commerce, and then obviously joined Financial Freedom University in July last year. And I've been building ever since.
Fantastic. What area is your e-commerce business in?
I sell magnetic therapy products for horses and dogs, so rugs and coats and boots, and I sell all over the world. It's fabulous.
It's amazing what we can do with the internet and how the internet has democratized access to markets. We're not limited to our geographic restriction. We talk about investing. We can own bits of businesses around the world. We can own properties around the world. We can do these things. But the challenge is often it's our own limitation of thinking, work has to look like X, or this is what business needs to look like. So cool, Sam. And I love 5 fur kids. Hell yeah. So cool. And Martha, you're on the other side of the pond. We're in 3 continents. Isn't technology fantastic?
How cool is that, right? Yeah, my name is Martha Wilson, and I am in the Florida Keys. So I'm in the United States, and it is where it is most always warm and sunny down here. I am married now. My husband and I have been married for, I want to say 5 years. I'm not really sure at this point, because we were together for 15 years before we actually made it legal. We have one decidedly high maintenance putty cat, who, wow, is, just to say that she's a little bit spoiled might be something of an understatement, but so be it. As for what I do for a living, even that is a mixed bag. So I retired in 2016 after 27 years undercover with CIA. And from that point, intended to step full-time into my coaching business, but a corporate opportunity fell into my lap that was too good to pass up. And I also acknowledge that a year later, I clued into the fact that, it was a sweet gig, and this is not what I'm on the planet for. Beautiful. So I walked away from that as well. Now I am running my coaching business full-time. I am managing 2 family trusts and caring for some elderly family members. And I have also recently gotten into the vacation rental business that didn't intend to be in there. But, again, life hands you an opportunity and you figure out what to do with it. And in fact, it is because of so much of the work that we've done together in FFU over however many years it's been at this point that allows me to see the possibility in these things.
Oh, absolutely. So I love this. We've got spies, we've got magnetic healing and all sorts. And Andrea, so good you can join us.
Sorry, I'm late.
Now you need to bring that camera down a little bit so we can see you. There we go. And we've got Andrew also in the UK. So Andrew, we're just starting, and Martha and Sam have just introduced themselves and said what they do for fun. Martha is a former spy, now a financially free life adventurer, teaching people about money. Your coaching is also in wealth and creating wealth. Martha?
Yes, and it's primarily focused on the inner work aspect of it. I'm all about the inner work that makes the outer work work.
Absolutely, and it just is so key, and what I know for certain is when we choose to really get conscious about our money stuff, we cannot not positively impact those around us. First we have to be the change. We got to do the work, inner and outer, and then it ripples out. And Andrea Haladali, you've been in my world, in my orbit for a while too, and it's just so great to see you. So just briefly, where are you based now? What do you do to keep in mischief?
I'm in England, in the UK, in Derbyshire, and I was able, thank you very much, to retire 3 years ago. Although I've been keeping a toe in the world in between then and now, and just finally kind of cut the umbilical cord just after Christmas this year. So
wow. So you are fresh.
I was the NHS until very short, but yeah. So now I'm looking at what's next.
This is so exciting because you all have had different journeys. I know each of you pretty well, and I'm dying to get into really now talking money. So, you've all started these journeys. You've been on them for different times. But the common thing is there was a point at which each of you said, hey, there's a different future for me financially, and I want a different result. And you chose to get support and training and education on that. So I'd love you to go back and think about, just at that point, what was your reality like that brought you to a point saying, hang on, something needs to change? And specifically, I can't just keep doing the same thing, or I'm not going to do it on my own. So Sam, what is that for you? Yours is more recent, so maybe I'll let the others go back in time a bit longer.
I think right from when I decided to leave the corporate world, which was 2013, I was searching for freedom. Something just changed. I hit 40 and I was searching for freedom. And I started my own business, and, things were tough financially. I was already in a certain amount of consumer debt, and knew that I, for the best part of my adult life, had been spending too much money and not, earning a good living, but also spending a lot as well. And I came across your book in 2015, and I started reading it with particular emphasis on blitzing my debt and also looking at investing, because I was absolutely frightened of investing and I didn't understand the terminology and everything. So I read some of your book, and then I actually put it on the shelf because I think deep down I really didn't want to look at my financial situation. I just carried on. And then it wasn't until I had a catastrophic event that happened in my life. And in 2000, everything was going really well with my business at the beginning of 2019. It was just that scenario where everything was working out. I was actually starting to make overpayments on my credit card debt, and things were just wonderful. And then in June 2019, I collapsed with a mysterious illness, and I was bedbound for 17 months. So my whole life completely changed overnight. Fortunately, I'd set my business up so that it was mostly automated, systemized, because I'd had this vision of freedom and being able to work from anywhere in the world. So I'd set my business up according to that dream. Thankfully, I'd done that. So my business survived when I couldn't work. And it took 6 months to find out what this mysterious illness was. And I found out I have Lyme disease. And unfortunately, I couldn't get treatment in my country, had to have treatment abroad. It cost me £100,000 to go from bedbound to where I am now. I didn't have £100,000 in my back pocket. So I was able to draw that money from some of it from my business. And then the rest had to go back on credit card debt. So all that hard work had started to, to knock that debt down, ended up going even bigger. So when I was able to come back to work, because I found a very good specialist in Europe to help me on the road to recovery, I wanted to pick up where I'd left off. So it was about getting rid of that consumer debt. I wanted to be mortgage free. It was my freedom that I wanted to find again. And when you have such a catastrophic life event, you look at things totally different. And just as I was coming good and my health was improving, my mum passed away last year, very, very suddenly. So all these life events were happening. And what's happened by default is that I've now ended up with a property in my portfolio, which is where myself and my partner used to live. We've actually now moved in with my dad because this reduces overheads, so we can still pay for, the medical treatment that I need. It's reduced overheads. I co-own that property with my dad anyway, and it's a nice size house, so we're not on top of each other. It's great. That's allowed me to still pay for my medical treatment, still pay the debts down, going from an overdraft of having about 4,000 in the overdraft down to, about £100 left in the overdraft from October to December.
Your story is so exciting. We're going to get there because I want to reiterate that, because what you've done is just transformational. But I just wanted to stop and really thank you for this beautiful, honest share, because, life happens. And I just want to say, wow, I mean, I can't even imagine that suddenly hitting that wall and then trying to get medical treatment. And for a lot of people, as you said, that there isn't that resource base. One of the key things around freedom is freedom of choice, freedom to be able to get the medical support. And I'm just so want to honor you for holding you, not just also accepting that, oh, well, I can't get it in the UK, going, no, I am worth this, the journey you've been on, but also then going, hey, a lot of people that just go, oh, well, I had this medical thing, and so that's the end of me. I have to collapse in on my financial dream. You went, no, I still hold that. And what you've done since is just so inspiring. So we're going to come back to that. So for you, it was really hell yeah shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're faced with what I was faced with, there was just no alternative for me. It's about living your life because you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people can say, oh, well, there's that, well, what's the point of investing? What's the point of saving? What's the point of getting out of debt because we might be run out of a bus tomorrow? That's not that point. No. You have to live that. Let's live free of financial anxiety. Let's live free of this burden. Let's live free knowing we've got choices. It's a very different distinction. Sam, so damn inspiring. So Martha, our ex-spy, where were you in this point where you said, hang on, I'm going to get some support and guidance on creating my financial freedom?
Yeah, so for me, it was right after I had left the gig in corporate. And at that time, I began to see this recurring pattern on one single number. And that one single number was 250,000. So a couple of years before, I'd managed to get our essentially what was then my life savings in a discretionary brokerage account up to 250,000. Long story short, something happened. I thought the money was there, and it wasn't. It was gone. It was down to, I think when I finally looked, it was down to 9. I'm like, what the hell? I got this corporate gig. The number that they were paying me, 250,000 for the year, plus bonuses, but 250,000. I did it for a year, and the company was great. I was effing miserable. I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. My life is worth more than this. So I turned and walked away from that. But coming out of those two pieces with that 250K, I now had a house that was stripped down to studs and a slab. The house that we'd been living in was part of my compensation plan with the government. So we had moved into this house that was stripped to studs in a slab. We had scraped together every credit card I could possibly come up with to get the thing so we could live in it. There was no place to go. I didn't know what I was doing for income. My business had been limping along and I had $50,000 in business credit card debt. And I was working with another coach at the time. And what she said to me was, Martha, there's two sides to money. There's the energetic side, and there's also the management side. You actually have to know what it's doing and know what to do with it. And that comment kind of landed on me like a ton of bricks because, frankly, I thought up until that time I was actually pretty good with money. Except I quickly discovered that my approach to money was work as hard as you can, spend as little as you can, save as much as you can, and hope to hell it all works out in the end.
Somewhere in that fog, something will happen with it.
Right. So based on her recommendation, she pointed me to you. And I honestly can't tell you what was the first thing that I heard from you. I don't know if it was a webinar or whatever, but whatever it was, it immediately resonated with me. And I was like, I need to reach down and grab myself by my wedding tackle and admit that there are a lot of things I do not know about money, and it is time for me to learn. And so that's what I did. And number one, the timing couldn't have been better because it was probably, was it less than a year after we first started working together that the first trust that I needed to manage landed in my lap. And of course, everything that's going on inside of my head was, please don't let me screw that up the way I screwed up. Because now it's not my life we're talking about, it's somebody else's. So let me not screw this up.
Back to that, because these are really important distinctions. Because firstly, because each of us first have to decide for ourselves, but there's some really interesting things do then tend to happen if we want to go a little bit more woo in that, sometimes we're being prepared to receive more, to take, because there's this aspect about, yes, we want to have choice. We no longer have to do that corporate gig or have to be in this place or have to feel scared or have to be stuck in debt. And so this journey has to always start with ourselves, but invariably it often ripples out into that. So we're going to come back to the exciting things that happen in Martha's life and Sam. They've got amazing stories. So Andrea, you also started this journey a little while back and now you're financially free. This is so cool and sexy. Where were you at that point when you said, hey, you know what? Nobody pops out the womb knowing this shit. Let me learn and change my destiny. What happened for you?
Well, for me, it was because I worked for the NHS, and in 2015, they changed the pension schemes. So they gave everybody all the information for each of the pension schemes and said, do you want to stay on what you're on or do you want to go to the new one? And I can remember sitting down one Saturday with all the paperwork, with all my bills, with all what I expected to happen, with, the state pension figures and all that sort of stuff. And I sat down with all of that and I went through it, and I must have been going through it for an hour, 2 hours, trying all different computations, and discovered I could never retire.
Yeah.
It was as simple as that. With that pension, there was just no way I could retire and pay all the bills that I was going to have to pay. And
Andrea, it must have been a devastating realization, but it's a realization.
I just kind of went,
it's too late. Some people only realize shit when they're suddenly there. I mean, it's the reality for a terrifyingly large number of people.
It is. And I can remember just kind of going, I could never retire. What the hell am I going to do? And then I thought, well, I'll put it all to one side for a minute. I will just put it over there and go away and do something else and not think about it. And I clicked on my emails, and there was an email from Hay House that said there was this new book out called The Wealth Chef that teaches you how to do everything with your money. And it was just kind of, I think somebody's bring me something. So I got a copy of your free book, and in that, when you signed up for the free book, it came up with a little video of you, and it was your energy and your enthusiasm. And I just kind of went, wow, yes, this is the person that I need to be working with. And so I went from there onto YouTube quickly. And before the end of the day, it was kind of, right, where's that odds and sod pension? What's this going on? and that's where it began.
I just love that. You know, that decision from despair. I think so many people hit a wall financially. Maybe it's illness and sickness, like Sam. Maybe it's Martha saying, "But I just can't keep doing this." You're going, "Hang on, something has to be changed." But really, there's this key thread in all three of you, and I want to really honor that each of you said, "I'm not just going to settle. I'm not going to betray myself. I'm not going to collapse in." There's this light, even though it might feel scary, I don't know how, but hey, I'm going to have my own back in this. And I think this is a huge first step, that we have to go believe that there's a spark, and listen to that spark of life going, no, we don't just have to collapse on in and go, well, this is my little lot, and then fade off into the ground, which we see people do. And so I just want to so honor you for being that and having sort of said yes. So Sam, you're the youngster in time in FFU. You came on in July, and you have just focused. You've just got in. It's been such a joy watching your journey. And a big focus has been getting just to grips and going, hell yeah, I'm going to blitz that debt. So tell us a bit about that journey.
Okay, so I decided to focus on my overdraft, but if I just go back before that, the hardest thing for me to do was to look at how I was spending my money. So when we started doing the FFU, and one of the modules was on about the inflow and the outflow of your bank account, I was thinking, well, what do I need to know this for? I know what I'm spending my money on. I know what's coming in. I didn't have a clue. And it's only when I started tracking and I looked 12 months back, which was, it was a task in itself, but it's so important to do that. And then I started looking at the habits, and then I started realizing that I am an emotional spender, and it's admitting to myself that I like spending money, and I am an emotional spender. And I'm work in progress, because I still got caught out around Christmas time, but not to the degree that I would have done 12 months ago, or 5 years ago, or whatever. So that's what I've focused on, really, is getting the overdraft down. And then it's about blitzing the credit cards, using the snowball effect. So, I've listed all my credit cards. I know which is the smallest amount. They're all on really low deals as well, because I make sure that I move them around on deals. And then it's about blitzing that credit card debt. The mortgage that I have finishes in 7 years. I want to pay it off in 5. This is the residential house that I live in. We have the property that we're renting out that's in the same village where I live, and that will be part of my pension pot. For the very first time, I've not been frightened, thanks to FFU, of investing in the stock market. So I now have a Vanguard ISA stocks and shares, and every month an amount's going out into that, and that will grow, and I'll invest more as I have more disposable income to do that. And that was it was easy. I'd made it difficult, but I think the hardest thing for me was allowing myself to take this journey, saying that I am worth this. It's the self-worth part that I think it was the hardest for me. Say that, this is what I want my life to look like. This is why I want it to look like this. And I deserve that. I'm deserving of that life that I want to create.
And you're also safe. You've raised, through a whole bunch of nuggets here. But this key thing first, really understanding what kind of a spender we are. Where do we come from? And coming with compassion to go, we are emotional beings. If we think that everything's logical in the world, then we're going to end up sabotaging ourselves to go, okay, this is interesting. Let's watch this. And when we can watch our patterns with curiosity. And I just so love how you said, like, hey, it's still there. And I've been financially free for 18 years now. It took me 8 years to get there. So I'm in my 25th year of dancing in this world of wealth and exploring, and shit, this stuff happens. And then when we can go, that's curious, what happened in my ecosystem, we discover more and more about what it means to be human and how to become free in the freedom of choice, and our life not be reactive to just triggers that happen. So key. But Sam, you've just focused and done this. And so huge kudos on your death that you blitzed and having a community. You've shared in that community. What's that been like, having a place to be witnessed in a clean way around your money?
Oh, it's been incredible, because I like to be held accountable. So I'd post in the group and I'd say, this is the what I want to achieve by this date, and everybody was so behind me, and I was sharing, how much money was coming in and going out, and sometimes when I felt completely lost, I could post in the group, because my partner's on board with me and my family, but they don't understand it to the same level as the people that are in that group with you. And we're all on the same journey. We're all at different parts of the journey, but it's just the community. It's so special. And like you say, it's very safe. And the amount of comments that you get on your posts and support is just incredible. And I think that builds the momentum even more, for you to go for what you believe in and what you want to achieve.
Yeah, because Sam, you mentioned a very important point, and we're going to jump to Martha and Andrea, who are also around this, and you might have had similar things. You speak about this permission piece, this belief that we can, and part of this permission pieces can be, who am I to want this? I think we can often be, don't blow your, do you think you're fancy or special? And I think we can be afraid of our community, our family, our friends judging us, like, are you too big for your britches, or whatever that languaging might be? Because I think that element in this so often comes where we go, often we're not fear of failure, we're afraid of actually succeeding. Because what would that mean in terms of who we are and our judgments, and what will some people reject us? Will some people think that's whatever is the story around it? And that's such a key point you brought up, just so beautiful. So Martha, on that point, you shared where you were, there was like side, and then you dive in. So give us a little bit of a summary of some of the key things. So I am going to give a spoiler alert. Martha is also financially free. Yes, from that point, and it hasn't been long at all. So tell us what happened.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So when I first jumped on board with FFU, the very first exercise you took us through was going through, what's your target number? And the part that so landed with me was that freedom could come in at different levels. And the part of that exercise was so powerful for me was, in the past, when things got hard, when money got tight, I knew that I was really, really good at downsizing my life to fit my current reality. And the challenge I was facing was, if I don't know what I am doing for income, does this mean I have to now downsize the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And that was the terrifying, heartbreaking part for me. Yeah. So we go through this exercise. And as I ran the numbers, what I could very clearly see is that I could be okay from that moment if nothing even changed. Yeah. If nothing even changed, because those numbers that I put together also included a plan to knock out that $50,000 worth of business credit card debt I had. And the plan I put together through that was going to knock out that debt in 24 months, 2 years. But the relief, the space that came from seeing, oh, wait a minute, I'm okay. I'm okay right here. The space that came out of that allowed me to knock that debt down and get rid of it completely in 12 months as opposed to 24.
Yeah.
from there, I got to look at, all right, let's look at these other levels of freedom. What does this look like? And, then the first trust opportunity or obligation is what it was. I don't want to use that word because it sounds like it has a heaviness to it, but it does have a responsibility to it. And that is the part that I want to acknowledge. So now all of a sudden, I've got to get my head and my heart wrapped around.
So what happened is
Stewardship
became the executor of a trust and is responsible for, she's the trustee of these pretty sizable trusts. Now suddenly she's responsible for a whole bunch of money that is not hers, and just so amazing that you prepared yourself with these skills. So yeah, that was a big thing coming onto your shoulders.
Yeah, it was. And I was like, holy cow, I clearly was not even a responsible steward of my 250,000. What am I? This has got an extra zero and another comma in it. How can I trust myself with this? But it was because of the work that we did in FFU of teaching me how to create the structure that actually supports me to understand where I'm making decisions from on both the trusts and for myself. That was the piece that opened it all up. And like I said, this has been going on for about 4 years now. So, if there's always another layer, there's always another piece to learn. And that's a good thing, because every time you do that, you get more free. You become free to hold a bigger dream.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is beautiful. Absolutely.
So, since that time, it gave me the freedom. The day after Christmas, when my dad said, I'm ready to move to assisted living, it gave me the freedom to say yes and pick up the whole bill and know I could do it. It's
amazing. So Martha, you're in a situation now where now another trust came your way, because you're just such a great custodian to money. You've created your own financial freedom. You're paying and looking after your father in assisted care. I mean, so it also sounds like a lot of things came your way for responsibility. And that's an interesting chapter and journey in itself. But we're speaking at a lot of a general level, but you're investing in multiple different asset classes, different structures. And this is you are very, very financially and investing savvy right now. How does it feel to just own that?
I'm still working to wear that jacket, but it is true. It is true. I mean, when we moved my dad into assisted living, instead of it becoming, oh my God, what do I do with the house? It was, so what do we do with the house? We turned that house into a vacation rental. The cash flow of that property covered a shortfall from another longer term rental that I'd had that was going over the transition of a tenant. The opportunity to acquire the property down the street came on board. Now we're having conversations about things like pledged asset lines that allow me to take advantage of the resources and structure an internal loan without having to go through an external bank, and be able to do all of that in a way that serves me, serves whomever, whether we're talking about the trust, whether we're talking about my dad. It really has given me a completely different perspective on money. It really moved it from being this thing to, this is going to sound really trite when I say it, but I think I'm finally getting what a true asset really means, what it really is. I thought I knew, I didn't know.
And you're really starting to get, and share what it is to be thriving in the world of wealth, because there's a different set of ways that we think. Whereas we are brought up to literally be the slaves at the altar of income. If I can just earn more, then I'll be okay. Let me work harder. Let me get that business plowing harder. And we we truly think money is the solution to our money problems.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well, and that is, surely that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about money. And well, actually, we're talking about wealth. And money is a key part of it. It's how it flows through. But Martha, when you're describing so beautifully, you suddenly realize, it's a different way of thinking. Like, how do we get creative with solutions, with stuff we don't even know about? And we need knowledge. We need to be exposed to, hang on, I love what you said, to ask a different set of questions like, hey, what can I do with this house to create this outcome? And so we suddenly realize these assets, these things where before maybe felt like burdens or overwhelming, or we just didn't know, or we only had one recipe for it, suddenly becomes Play-Doh. Now, wow, there's a whole lot of different ways we can do this. It is just so beautiful describing that. Looks like we've got Andrea back. We've been watching you doing circles, Andrea, and all sorts of interesting things over there after just describing her journey. So before we get to Andrea, so Martha, right now you were sharing with me, you have just completed, or you're in the process of completing on essentially something that is going to create your dream home, a lifestyle that maybe was only just a spark.
Yeah. The opportunity came up out of the blue right after Thanksgiving to secure a property that's right next door to a lot that we already own here on the water in the Keys. And what this allows us to do, it allows me to do, particularly out of everything I've learned up until this point, is get that property, put those lots together so that can become the dream place that we wanted to live. This property that I'm standing in right now becomes a vacation rental because of what we've already done with my dad's house. I've already got the systems and structures in place for that. And from the day I crossed this threshold into this house, I was like, this would be perfect for a vacation rental because of X, Y, and Z. So again, it is. And I so appreciate, it was just a couple of months ago, I was on a call with you, and the words you said to me were, Martha, remember, your assets are supposed to serve you, not enslave you. And that message just really, really landed with me because that was the permission that I needed. I mean, I'm still a work in progress on this. I'm still a work in progress. But it was the permission I needed to open my mind enough to see how can we make this miracle happen. And
and that is so beautiful what you said. And there is that mindset piece. There's the inner game. How do I open that more? And what you had given yourself was the structural elements, let's say the framework, to then actually be able to see how to make it happen, not just wishful thinking, which is so key. You shared as we were coming on that whilst this is like big and scary, you're able to go back to the spreadsheet and go, it's okay. I've got this. You can really, you're literate.
Yes. And even going back to the very first thing that I ever did with you 4 years ago when I came into FFU the very first time, because of everything I learned there about squeezing the juice, if things don't go according to plan and I do have to downsize my life for a little bit,
period, yeah,
I can.
Yeah.
And it's not going to suck.
And this is also the inner liberation. I think when we can realize we can have these dreams. I share with all of you in Wellfields and FFU the journey to getting my bush place and a big permission piece. And I really get that suddenly and then who am I? What have I done? Eat up, as we go along. But expanding these elements of really then having those structural parts that go, hey, it's okay, I'm safe. But also knowing that those dreams, those goals, all of these things we do, they don't define us. And so we get an extraordinary resilience around our money. So we are able to know that we can be flexible. As Sam, you say, hey, you can go and share the house with your dad. It's great. It's signed. Fantastic. It reduces overheads. More money can be directed to there. We also know nothing is ever forever. We're able to make really empowered choices where we put ourselves first. And this is a key characteristic of what I see in FFUs and where we create, because we know that all these other paths don't define who we are. And I see both of you sharing that so cleanly and beautifully in this. There's a deep, I am, but also claiming life, not playing small, but not letting that game of big, which a lot of people play, be financially depleting. And this is where a lot of people miss it when the law of attraction or fake it till you make it. They end up spending a whole lot of money they don't have, trying to look wealthy, trying to be fit in. But underneath, it's just eating away at them because there's nothing there. Now, when you turn that on its head and actually let money serve you, that freedom comes at so many levels, including the emotional freedom to not be attached to these things, but they can really bring us joy. So let's see if we can get Andrea on while you're having some challenges with your connection. So Andrea, as you to say, hell yes, I'm not just going to settle for having to work until I drop sideways into the grave. And you're good, I'm going to learn about this. What were the things that changed and shifted for you, which now resulted in you being free? Oh.
What changed?
Oh, we're having some real connection. Oh, Andrea, we're not being able to hear you at all. I'm going to have to connect with you separately when your connection is strong so we can hear your story, because Andrea just has such a fantastic story, including also health and all sorts of things. This is so frustrating because I'd love everybody to hear your story, because they're all just, what is so beautifully and unique is each of your stories are also uniquely you. And this is where we also get there is no one path. There are absolute threads. We've got to take responsibility. We've got to do certain things. We take that. But it is, we each have this unique, beautiful thing called our crazy, freaky lives. Now, it looks like we're not going to get Andrea's story today. A pity. So, thank you so much for just sharing so openly. And Sam, now you're starting to invest. Now you're coming along. What would you say is one of the key elements in that made a difference for you to be able to actually see the transition? And that if somebody was listening here today going, maybe they've had a big health challenge, they've got a whole layer of debt in place, what would your advice be to them?
I think you just have to believe in yourself. Just believe you can do it and give yourself permission to go for the life that you actually want, and the life that you deserve. I think that's the key thing. And that was the hardest thing for me when I started Financial Freedom University, because deep down I knew that. But when I started working through the first few modules, there was a great resistance to not wanting to do the work, but just keep going and keep doing it. And even if you just say to yourself, when I was looking at the inflows and outflows, I'm just going to do the first 15 days of July and then I'm going to walk away. It's just little and often. If you can't quite do it all in one go, just little steps, because those little steps lead to the greater things. And I think you just got, if you want deep down, all I want is freedom. That's what I'm searching for. I have been searching for that definitely for the last 10 years of my life that I'm aware of. And if you want that freedom, then join Financial Freedom University, because I have done programs before, but this one has changed my complete view of money, and it's given me permission to look at how I am spending my money and what I can do to build assets to create wealth, because what Martha is saying is absolutely true. And if I look back, what I didn't realize was that my business, my e-commerce business, I was creating an asset. Had I not put everything in place to allow that asset to work on its own and produce an income as long as the inventory was here, I would have lost absolutely everything. I would have lost my home. I would have lost my job. I would have lost everything. So assets generating, building wealth and generating income, it's a key. And I think that's what I've really learned about Financial Freedom University. And once my consumer debt is gone and once my mortgage is gone, I will be building those assets right up so that I can have a choice. I don't want to retire, but I'd like to semi-retire. I'd like to move to the coast. That's my dream, and I can't see any reason why I can't do that.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. And you speak so beautifully about expecting that resistance when it comes, because there's a part of us that we feel safe in our familiar suffering. We feel safe with our familiar story. We feel safe with what we know, the community. And so I think this is so important. You brought such a key thing for anybody starting off. Just expect the muck to come up. You're going to have to look at what's going on, and you're going to find some stuff that you go, oh shit, it's impossible to be an adult human and not have some money trauma and not have messed up in some areas. So to also go, okay, eek, how do we look at this? Such beautiful distinctions that you've made there. So Martha, your dream home's coming up. I just love this, as you say, these next layers of expansion. Sam said, why not? When we can keep expanding this. And there's this beautiful dance between enoughness, but enoughness doesn't mean we stop exploring and living our life. It's not a settling thing. It's a hell yeah thing. So what were some of the key learnings for you in this journey? If you look back, and what would you say to somebody who was sitting there going, can I do this? Should I start this journey? I feel afraid, or whatever that is.
So for me, it all comes down to system and structure. As I said, I'm really good at suffering. I'm really good at sucking it up and muscling through. So what if we could use some structure? So instead of me having to suck it up and muscle through that way, what if I could use that same focus and that same determination to create a structure that actually feels good? And it's a structure for, like I said, I had the structure that was going to make the debt go away in 2 years, but the freedom that came out of it made it go away in 1. I have a structure that allows me to see exactly what my money's doing on a monthly basis. Yes, like Sam said, in the beginning, that felt hard and cumbersome. And you really want me to spend that much time seriously, do you know how busy I am? But the thing of it is, when you do it the first time, and I love Sam talking about, just do it a week at a time. Start where you start. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters that you start. And you will find the way to use your structures so they support you. I've figured out that for whatever reason, even with the trust, there's something in me that will not allow myself to purchase ETFs in chunks bigger than $10,000 at a time. I don't know why. Okay, fine. We'll do one this week and one next week and 1 week after that.
And I love that we're going to have this conversation. And we have all these different layers, because in the community, there are people just starting out, this side, and then the languaging becomes, the more we're in it, then the language becomes familiar. And so I think that's also why it's so important having a place where there's structure, the how-tos, but also in a place where we learn a new language. Because I think, Sam, you said it feels so intimidating when you want to start investing, but you maybe open a website or brokerage and it's just these numbers, and it's as though the financial world designs it to make us feel ashamed. Like that's not for the likes of us. And then we can come in, and it's not about, this machismo, people speaking this lingo to make, other people. It's just going, hey, there's this bit of language there. It's not that complicated, but we just need to learn a few words, and then, woohoo, let it be easy and simple. And then, and then it grows on. And then I love the fact that we also find out that we're freaks, and we can be joyful with our freaks. And if you could only buy ETFs in $10,000 chunks, most people would say, hell, I'd love that to be my problem. It's a quality problem to have. We find a way around it. It is so beautiful. That is such a lovely share. So it's about, yeah, just taking those steps. So Andrea, can we hear you? Can you hear us? My darling Andrea, we're going to jump on a call. I'm going to interview you separately. That we are not hearing you. So Sam and Martha, so you've shared so amazingly right now. And so Sam, knowing what you've now done, I mean, in just 6 months, you've just been so focused and committed, and you've shifted the trajectory of your future enormously. We really get that right now we are creating our future's past. And the work that you've done over the last 6 months has created a completely different future for you. So knowing what you now know now, what are you excited about for yourself?
I'm really excited about the fact that it's given me permission to go bigger in other areas. So with my business, I alluded to I sell overseas. Well, I'm going to launch in the States properly. So we're going to have a fulfillment center there. And, over the next 6 months, that's going to be the goal. And it radiates throughout everything that you do once you give yourself permission to expand in your life. So that is really exciting. I'm so looking forward to that. And even just having my rental property, the tenant that I have, he is wonderful. And I feel as though I've created a nice space for somebody to live in. Yeah. And that gives me a lot of joy. It's not just about, it's an asset, it's an income generating asset. It actually brings me a lot of joy that I'm providing a lovely home for somebody and they really appreciate that home. And your life just changes completely. And also, I agree with Martha. Once you start that ball rolling of when you're paying your debt off, you do pay it off a lot faster. So with my overdraft, the money just kept flowing in. So once you make that commitment, it comes from everywhere. And I think if you
it does. It's like when we finally go, hey, I'm going to take a stand for myself. I'm not going to settle. I'm to take a stand for freedom. It's like when we show the universe we're prepared to do the work. Mm. We're prepared to participate in our own damn rescue. It goes, hell yeah. And it's not just to click your fingers, you're doing it, but there is something amazing.
So now I'm thinking, can I pay my mortgage off in 2.5 years?
Yes. And we're going to talk about that because you know me, I don't like you to pay your mortgage off before you
go. Fair enough.
This is not such fun. We can have these lovely wrestles and go, no, we're going to get more.
Okay. I'll invest more then. I'll put it into the stock market.
We're going to get those assets working hard for you. And Martha, you've got this exciting new adventure with this home. So what else is in store for you now with this ever-expanding freedom?
I almost don't know. I mean, in all seriousness, and I love the way Sam put it. She's like, it really does expand everything. I mean, it has expanded my business because now there was a time when I had to acknowledge there's a part of me that really didn't want to put a lot more energy in my business because the money in the business never came back to me. It always went someplace else. Well, now I have a structure that part of it comes back to me. I get to play
in your life. Yeah, absolutely. And this is so important to speak about because a lot of people in the coaching or the second business can get into the cycle of the money flows through, but it doesn't stay. Yeah. One of the key things about financial freedom is learning that you're allowed to keep some of the money you make, and in fact, you must, and how to do that. So hell yeah, Martha.
And in fact, there was a point where I was like, the way I'm working this right now, I'd actually be better off to put a bullet in my business and do without it because my business has become a liability, not an asset, which again goes back to that asset liability conversation that you have so early on that, like I said, hit me like a truth bomb. So I have now turned my business into an asset. And I'm now kind of in the place of, so what else could I do? What else is possible from this point? What could it look like? What could it be?
And it's so beautiful to also have the freedom to just be in that wandering, not the urgency that you have to create the next thing, that hustle, that shift. And I can feel that in you, where there's this beautiful openness to the wonder of life without any kind of grabbing, well, this needs to be the next thing. Because we can also see that devastating almost addiction to this more, well, it must be more, must be bigger, must do that, must be that next thing, where there's no freedom in that either. It's just another devastating cycle. Well, Sam and Martha, thank you so much. I'm sorry Andrew didn't get to share a story, but we'll get her on separately. And I just so honor you. I know the courage it takes to choose freedom. I know the courage it takes to back ourselves. And you have, and you've shown up for yourself and for life. And I really know that. Thank you for sharing your story, because there are a lot of people who need to hear that we can do that. That it is safe to believe in the dreams, and it is safe to have financial enoughness and support, and that our world won't fall apart or things run. And actually, the wonder comes in when we have the structures and the support to serve us. And we can be emotional spenders and give ourselves some of that too, and be safe. We can put these automations in place to actually protect our money from us. So parting word just from me, just huge gratitude that you said yes to you, and that you are now part of my world, of my life. And it is such a privilege being a guide and getting to be a guide to so many big-hearted, amazing people. As I say, I attract amazing people into my world, and look at the two of you. It absolutely is true. And Sam, just any parting suggestions, words for your fellow FF viewers or anybody else listening?
Just like I said before, you have to trust. We have to trust and believe in who you are, and I think it's bigger than just your financial freedom. It's like I say, I was pursuing freedom in its entirety. This is something that it penetrates through on a soul level. We're here having a human experience, and that really is what it's about. And this is a big part of accepting who you are and giving yourself permission to know that you're enough.
Oh, I love that. And Martha, all the way from Florida. I love the 3-continent connection we've got going here.
I look forward to putting us all on the same continent, in the same room, where we can actually exchange live hugs. Because I will honestly say, and I don't have sufficient words for the difference you've made in my life. And more importantly, the difference that you've made in the lives of the people who are downstream from me, which is interesting because I don't have children, but there are still people downstream from me who are going to be better off because of the things that you teach. Carolyn Mace says that money is a reflection of life force. And so many of us were taught to trade our life force for money. You teach us how to use our life force to create an upward spiral. And that changes everything.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Sam. Love you loads. Bye.